Hello class, this is the second of two videos that you are being asked to watch for this week. The first one is the usual rundown of the week, and it's a very short video because there is not a lot to do in week 7 except for the two annotated summaries. But one of the things that I really wanted to go over with you is the format for the argumentative paper. And one of the reasons that I did not want to do this until this week is I really wanted you to be focused in weeks 5 and 6 on the research elements, and I want you to at least have a good portion of your research done by the time you are watching this video. So my hope is that as you are listening, you have an idea of what you're doing, and that you also have an idea of your argument. So this is the format that I want your paper to follow. So for the introduction, one paragraph, 2 paragraphs, maybe, but I really want you to keep it to 1 paragraph. So if you're going to do 2 paragraphs, please talk to me and let me know, and I'll tell you whether I think that's a good idea or not. So the purpose is to, of course, set up and state one's claim. So you are offering a little bit of background in this paragraph. Some of the optional elements that I think you're going to want to include or potentially include is to make your paragraph interesting, drawing your readers in with an attention grabber. Don't use questions to start your essays. That's really important. But if you can find a way, if you can use a statistic, if you can use a story of some sort, then it would be a very, very good idea for you to start off your essay in that way. Some background information as well, I think, would also be very helpful and very useful, letting us know what things in order to understand like what you're going to talk about. And there's going to be a separate background paragraph as well, but you still may want to provide some background on whatever the subject or the topic of your paper is going to be. The required elements. So there are 4 different ways, or there are 3 different ways to state your argument, okay? You're not writing about a literary work. You're not arguing about a film. This is the bullet point that you want to pay special close attention to. If you're arguing about an issue or theory, you want to provide a brief explanation of the issue or theory. So in this case, you are discussing an issue and you're presenting your argument in this thesis statement. Okay, it is often referred to as a claim, and that's totally acceptable. And you want to state your claim at the end of your introductory paragraph. So some of you may have been taught in the past to put the thesis statement at the beginning of your introduction, make it the first sentence. That is not the case when you get into college level and academic writing. And in fact, as we've discussed, there are some cases when the thesis statement isn't even in the first paragraph or first page at all. But for the purposes of this assignment, I want your thesis statement to be the last sentence of your introduction. That is the easiest way for me to identify it, and it is the easiest way for me to understand what it is that your argument is going to be. Okay, so that is the introduction. Then there is the background paragraph. Again, there is the potential to have 2 background paragraphs, but I'm going to strongly encourage you to use 1. Okay, you are strongly encouraged to have 1 background paragraph. Okay, this is not optional for this assignment. I really do want you to have a background paragraph because I do want you to explain some element of your paper. Okay, and what you're doing here, the purpose is to lay the foundation for proving your argument. So your background paragraph does not necessarily have to be argumentative, okay, but you are doing one of the following. You are summarizing some of the key works being discussed, definition of key terms, explanation of key theories. Okay, I would also add, in some cases, your background paragraph can be a little bit of a history as well. Some recent history. You're not going back to the beginning of time. Okay, but the background paragraph, part of why it's important is, even though you're going to be building an argument in every other one of your paragraphs, there may be some aspect to this essay that you need to explain, and I want you to have a paragraph where you actually do that. Okay, so maybe you're going to talk about the state of police in Memphis, just facts that you're presenting. Okay, this is not necessarily a paragraph where you're going to have a topic sentence or where you're going to have your analysis. Okay, you are going to want most of this to still be in your own words with paraphrasing and summarizing, but overall you want this paragraph to be more informative than persuasive. Okay, when you get into the supporting evidence paragraphs, that is when you want to get into the nitty-gritty of the argument. Okay, so any supporting evidence paragraph that you write, that goes for number 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Okay? The purpose is to prove your argument. Usually it's one paragraph, but it can be longer. Okay, you're going to have multiple supporting evidence. You're probably going to have 5, 6, maybe even 7, if not more, of these supporting evidence paragraphs. And you want to start off with a topic sentence. Okay, the topic sentence builds directly off the thesis statement. Okay, what is one item, fact, detail, or example you can tell your readers that will help them better understand your claim, paper, or topic? Your answer should be the topic sentence for this paragraph. So in each supporting evidence paragraph, you're going to start off with a clear topic sentence that is arguing one aspect of this paper. So for example, nobody's doing this, but if you were to argue for why marijuana should be legalized, then one of the ways that you would make that argument is you may have a paragraph where you discuss the medical benefits. Maybe you would have another supporting evidence paragraph where you would discuss the fact that it would lessen the amount of people that are in jail. Okay, these are all the various things, and these are the different ways that we can make these arguments. Okay? Now, some of this is optional. The rest of these, you may have some of this, others you may not. If you feel like you need to explain the topic sentence, you can do that. But you do want to have evidence. Okay, the evidence is from another source. This can be a paraphrase, or this can be a quote. Okay? Here's the thing, though. When you're beginning and ending your paragraphs, do not begin or end with someone else's words. That is really, really important. But the other thing is that when I check for plagiarism, I should see between 10 and 20%. Okay? Because your quotations are going to be flagged as being plagiarized, but as long as you cite them correctly, of course, they are not going to be considered plagiarism. Okay? But if you have more than 20%, then that's too much. You generally want to have 1 or 2 quotes per page. Okay, that's how you get to about 10 to 20%. No more than 2, preferably 1 or 2 quotes per page. Okay, and again, you want to end with a concluding sentence, or you want to end on some form of analysis with explaining the evidence, having a concluding sentence. I think it's generally a good idea to have 2 or 3 sentences of your own words that follow the quote. Okay, that is general best practice. It's not a hard and fast rule because English is not, of course, math. I'm not asking you to plug in a formula necessarily. Okay, but one of the things that you can and should be able to do is to end all of your paragraphs on your own. Okay, with your own words. Something else that I want to talk about. So all of your supporting evidence paragraphs are going to look very much like this, what you see here. Okay, this is what they're all going to look like. Okay, now for the first draft, it is not a requirement to have a counter-argument paragraph. Okay, but once you get into the final draft, this will be a requirement. You will need to have this counter-argument paragraph. Okay, to anticipate your readers' objections, make yourself sound more objective and reasonable. Okay, this is mandatory for this assignment. Okay, it's not optional. You're going to have 1 or 2 counter-argument paragraphs. Okay, something you want to consider. What possible argument might your reader pose against your argument, and or some aspect of your reasoning? Insert 1 or more of those arguments here and refute them. And then you need to end your paragraph with a concluding sentence that reasserts your paper's claim as a whole. One of the biggest mistakes that students make is they forget this last part. Okay, if you don't end your paragraph by reasserting your paper's claims, then that is going to be a major problem. Okay? Because then you're going to end up contradicting yourself. So you have to make sure that you reassert the point that you are trying to make. Okay? Here's something else that is very, very important as well. Okay? The counter argument is something that we're going to talk more about in future weeks. I'm going to have a different handout for it. I would strongly recommend that you not have the counter argument paragraph in the first draft. In the final draft, it's a requirement, but by then you'll have more knowledge. But I just want to plant the seeds in your head right now for the counter argument. Okay? And finally, there's the conclusion. So there are two ways to do the conclusion. I want you to ignore this one. Do not do the first part of the conclusion. I don't want you to have a summary paragraph. I want you to focus on part 2, the so what paragraph. Okay? And in this case, you are illustrating to me that you've thought critically and analytically about this issue. And some of the things that you can do in this conclusion are the following. Again, you are not restating your intro paragraph, okay, but you want to include some of the things that you brought up previously and kind of make connections. Why should we care about your paper? What is the significance of your claim? Why is it important to you as the writer, to me as the reader? What information should I take away? These are some of the questions you might answer in your conclusion, especially this first one. Why should we care? What is the significance? Your conclusion should create a sense of movement to a more complex understanding of the subject. This is also another possibility. It should serve as the climax of your paper. Maybe save some of your strongest analytical points for the end of the essay and really drive home in the conclusion. Okay? Avoid making new claims, okay, but be as vivid and concrete in your language as possible. Okay, this is my final impression of the essay. If you don't have a good conclusion, you are going to leave me with a very negative viewpoint. Okay, it is extremely important that as you are reading and as I am reading, that I get a sense with a very strong conclusion. Okay, and try to avoid making new points as much as humanly possible. Okay, so that is kind of what you should expect, or what I am expecting from your argumentative paper. A PDF copy can also be found on eCourseWare, but this video is important as I went through an explanation of kind of what I'm looking for, because this is very general, and it's helpful, and it's useful, and page 3 even has a way for you to kind of use this for your own benefit. Okay, but as you are thinking about this, understand that you really want to start outlining and planning your paper. Okay? Thanks very much. Have a good week, everyone.